Hello everyone, welcome to my podcast Buddhism. Today, we will delve into the profound journey of enlightenment undertaken by the Buddha. We will explore the historical context of the Buddha's life, the significant stages of his spiritual practice, and the profound realizations that led him to attain supreme perfect enlightenment. Join us as we uncover the wisdom and teachings that continue to inspire millions around the world. The historical Buddha. According to history, Buddha Shakyamuni was a real figure in the cultural history of humanity. His life has been documented from his birth to his growth. Today in India and Nepal, there are still relics of where the Buddha was born, where he attained enlightenment, where he delivered his first sermon to the 5 ascetics, and where he entered nirvana. These places still have stone pillars erected by King Ashoka, who lived about 300 years after the Buddha, guided by the 4th patriarch, Upagupta. The king erected these pillars to detail the Buddha's life, so that future generations would know that a great enlightened one had appeared in the world, bringing the light of compassion and wisdom to illuminate even the darkest corners, helping people live equally and happily with less suffering. Buddha Shakyamuni was originally a prince, the son of King Suddhodana and Queen Maya. Queen Maya passed away 7 days after the prince's birth. Queen Maya's sister, Mahapanchapati Gautami, took on the responsibility of raising the prince until he grew up. During his youth, he was named Siddhartha of the Gautama clan. At 16, he married Princess Yasodhara, and at 29, he had a son named Rahula. After attaining enlightenment, he was called Gautama Buddha. His disciples referred to him as the world-honored one, while others called him Gautama or Shakyamuni, meaning the sage of the Shakya clan. He was also honored with 10 titles, including Tathagata, worthy of offerings, perfectly enlightened one, possessed of wisdom and conduct, well gone, knower of the world, unsurpassed leader, trainer of persons, teacher of gods and humans, Buddha, and world-honored one. The Buddha was born in 624 BCE in Lumbini, Nepal, and entered nirvana in 544 BCE in Kushinagar, India, at the age of 80. When the prince was born, King Suddhodana invited many soothsayers to predict his future. Among them, a Brahmin named Kondana predicted that the prince would either become a great king or renounce the world to become a great enlightened one. The sage Asita, who lived in the Himalayas, also visited the prince and made a similar prediction. When Asita finished examining the prince, he smiled and then cried. King Suddhodana, seeing this unusual behavior, asked why. Asita explained that he smiled because he was happy to know that a great enlightened one would be born in this world, but he cried because he knew he was too old to live to see that day and learn the Buddhist teachings. King Suddhodana was worried after hearing these predictions. He did not want the prince to become a monk, even if it meant achieving supreme enlightenment. The king wanted to train the prince to be a great ruler, continuing the prestigious lineage of the Shakya clan. To achieve his goal, the king invited the best teachers in the country to the palace to train the prince in literature, arts, and martial arts. The prince excelled in all subjects, which pleased the king. However, the king was still anxious that the prince might leave the palace, as predicted by the Brahmins. To prevent this, the king surrounded the prince with pleasures in the palace and prohibited him from being exposed to the outside world, fearing that if the prince saw the suffering of the people, he would decide to become a monk. At 16, King Suddhodana married the prince to Princess Yasodhara, hoping that the prince's love for the beautiful princess would keep him from thinking about renunciation. Later, the Buddha recounted to his disciples, "My father built 3 palaces for me, one for the summer, one for the rainy season, and one for the winter, and all day long palace maidens sang and danced." Clearly, the king wanted the prince to become accustomed to indulgence and not think about renunciation. At 29, the prince had his first child, a son named Rahula. The prince asked King Suddhodana for permission to go outside the palace. The king, thinking that the prince now had a wife and child, a happy family life, wealth, and power awaiting him, consented. However, the king also ordered that the roads the prince would travel be decorated beautifully, and that only healthy and wealthy people be allowed to greet and praise the prince. Prince Siddhartha ventured outside the palace for the first time and continued to do so until his 4th trip. Each time he returned, he was preoccupied with what he had seen. These 4 encounters were: 1. An old person, with wrinkled skin, white hair, bent back, weak eyesight, and unsteady gait. 2. A sick person, someone lacking health, looking frail and in pain, no longer youthful, suffering from illness. 3. A dead person, someone who had lost all consciousness. The body would swell and rot if left unattended, thus quickly taken to the cremation ground, turning to ashes and disappearing from sight. 4. A monk, someone living a life of alms, having left home to find a way to escape the cycle of old age, sickness, and death. The process of Buddhist practice of the Buddha. The first awakening, renouncing the world to seek the path. After several outings from the palace, the prince realized the inevitability of birth, old age, sickness, and death. The objective laws that no one could escape, akin to 4 enormous Mount Merus gradually advancing towards the small human standing in the middle. People are under a death sentence without knowing it, living day by day, sometimes healthy, sometimes sick, growing old, and eventually dying, or they know the grim outlook of a human life but cannot resist and must accept it. From a young age, the prince was very introspective, preferring solitude. Confronted with old age, sickness, and death, the prince lost all desire for the deceptive, luxurious life, constantly reflecting on these phenomena. The prince often pondered, "My mother died when I was young. My father will die. My aunt will die. The beautiful Princess Yasodhara, whom I love, will die. My beloved newborn son Rahula will die. All the people of Kosala will die. And even I will grow old, fall sick, and die. After death, where does one go? How can one escape these terrifying mountains?" No one could explain this to him, and no one had an answer. Eventually, the image and words of the monk the prince had encountered outside the city became the final catalyst that pushed the prince to decide to abandon his affluent life and the throne awaiting him, to cut ties with his beloved wife and newborn son, and to embark on a quest to find a way to escape birth, old age, sickness, and death, to save himself and all sentient beings. Resolute in leaving the Golden Palace to seek the path, one night the prince and his attendant Channa, riding the horse Kanthaka, sped out of the city. Reaching the Anoma River, the prince exchanged his royal garments with Channa, took a sword to cut his hair, removed all jewelry, and handed it to Channa, instructing him to bring it back to his aunt and tell his parents and family that he would return once he attained enlightenment and freed himself from the cycle of birth, old age, sickness, and death. This was the first awakening of a great superhuman. We call him a great superhuman because he was a prince excelling in both literature and martial arts, with everything at his disposal, a vibrant youth ahead of him, a throne many desired, and an entire nation in his hands. Yet he decided to abandon it all to live a life without a home, seeking alms for daily meals. During that time and even now, no other prince has shown such courage. The second awakening, the importance of the Dharma over the teacher. Now we temporarily change the way we address him. In the scriptures of that time, he was called the ascetic Gautama. We can also call him Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva refers to those who cultivate to attain Buddhahood, like Avalokiteshvara, Mahastamaprapta, Manjushri, and Samantabhadra. A bodhisattva also indicates those who cultivate with the vow to save themselves and others. For example, a layperson who always helps others without discrimination is revered as a bodhisattva. Hence, calling him bodhisattva or ascetic during this period is appropriate, since he was still practicing and had renounced his title as Prince Siddhartha. Returning to his quest to find a teacher, ascetic Gautama. The first teacher was Alara Kalama. Bodhisattva went into the forest to seek a teacher. He first met a teacher with many disciples named Alara Kalama. This teacher taught yoga meditation up to the 3rd level, the realm of nothingness. In a short time of dedicated practice, ascetic Gautama attained this state. He then asked his teacher if there was anything more to learn. The scriptures record that Alara Kalama was very pleased with his achievement, but, unfortunately, had nothing higher to teach. So he invited him to stay and guide the disciples together, but he declined and left in search of further knowledge. The second teacher was Udaka Ramaputa. Following Alara Kalama's direction, Bodhisattva found another renowned teacher, Udaka Ramaputa, who taught the 4th level of yoga meditation, the realm of neither perception nor non-perception. Again, in a short time, Bodhisattva attained this state. In this state, there is no perception, nor is there non-perception. The mind becomes deeply tranquil, making it hard to discern if there is any mind at all. This was the highest meditation at that time. Although he mastered this level, he still did not find the supreme wisdom and nirvana he sought, so he left this teacher as well, despite being invited to stay and guide the disciples. This was the second awakening. In the pursuit of spiritual practice, the Dharma is more important than the teacher. If the teacher cannot provide the Dharma that meets the aspirant's goals, it is respectful but necessary to leave and seek the Dharma elsewhere. This principle led to the Buddha's later teachings on the four reliances. 1. Rely on the Dharma, not on individuals. 2. Rely on the meaning, not on the words. 3. Rely on the definitive meaning, not the provisional meaning. 4. Rely on wisdom, not on consciousness. The third awakening, the middle way, neither indulgence nor asceticism. Bodhisattva Gautama left the second teacher and wandered into the forest of Dungsiri, a dense jungle that appeared cool from afar but was infested with mosquitoes and thorny underbrush. Here he saw many ascetics practicing severe austerities, some rolling on thorns, others hanging upside down from trees, covered in mud and ash, some with matted hair, and others beating themselves until blood flowed. Bodhisattva Gautama encountered 5 ascetics, including Kundana, who had previously predicted his great future. He joined them and practiced severe austerities with them. The scriptures describe him as the foremost in ascetic practices, enduring extreme self-mortification. He went deep into the forest, lived in solitude, did not bathe for months, slept on thorns, endured freezing winters and scorching summers, ate only a few sesame seeds or drops of dew each day, until he was emaciated and near death. At one point, the deities spoke about him, saying, "Feed him celestial food through his pores to keep him alive. He is not dead. He is practicing severe austerities." Upon hearing this, Bodhisattva abandoned his intention of fasting to death. Later, the Buddha recounted to his disciples, "My limbs became like dry sticks. My eyes sank deep into their sockets. My scalp shriveled and became like a withered gourd. If I thought of touching my belly, I would grab my spine. My belly skin clung to my back. If I needed to relieve myself, I would collapse face down on the ground. When I massaged my limbs, the hair, rotted at the roots, fell off my body." Great Lion's Roar Sutra, Middle-Length Discourses, Nikaya. The fourth awakening, choosing the breath and the environment for practice. Bodhisattva Gautama decided to abandon extreme asceticism and adopted a middle way, realizing that self-mortification did not lead to enlightenment and nearly cost him his life. He recalled his childhood experience of spontaneous meditation under a rose apple tree during a plowing festival, where he experienced profound joy and tranquility. He decided to follow this method of mindful breathing again. In the banyan forest, Sujata, a wealthy girl who had prayed for a child, attributed her son's birth to a deity residing in the banyan tree. She prepared a special milk rice offering and sent her maid, Puna, to find the deity. Puna found the emaciated bodhisattva and believed he was the deity. Sujata offered him the milk rice, which restored his health, enabling him to continue his practice. Bodhisattva Gautama realized the banyan forest was too frequented by people seeking blessings, so he crossed the Nairanjana River to the Pipala forest, later known as the Bodhi tree. He chose a large tree with wide branches for shelter and laid down 2 bundles of kusa grass offered by a young man. Sitting on the grass, he vowed, "Even if my flesh and blood dry up, leaving only skin and bones, I will not leave this place until I attain supreme enlightenment." The Buddha's experience teaches that in meditation, it is crucial to have the right method, adequate nourishment, determination, and a quiet, secluded environment, cutting off worldly distractions and views to focus on spiritual cultivation. The process of enlightenment. We can temporarily divide the Buddha's enlightenment process into 2 stages. First stage, during 4 weeks of meditation under the Pipala, Bodhi tree, the Buddha attained the 3 insights: the knowledge of past lives, the divine eye, and the extinction of all mental defilements. He solved the problem of liberation from the cycle of birth and death, and realized the 4 noble truths: suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. He proposed the Eightfold Path as a way to achieve nirvana and end suffering, which includes right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This complete enlightenment process is termed abhisamaya in Pali. Second stage, in the seventh week, the Buddha realized the true nature, tathata, the unchanging nature, avadathata, the undifferentiated nature, anatatha, the dependent origination, idapakaya, the nature of emptiness, illusion, and the equality of all phenomena. Through his spiritual practice, he realized unprecedented truths which remain relevant today. At this point, he truly attained the supreme perfect enlightenment, anuttara sambodhi, becoming a historical Buddha. 4 stages of the Buddha's meditation. We can temporarily divide the 4 weeks of the Buddha's meditation into 4 stages, but in reality this is a continuous mental process throughout the 4 weeks, from when the Buddha began sitting under the pipala tree. First stage of meditation, first jhana. Meditation with thought and examination. The Buddha began practicing the method of breathing, which he himself discovered, called anapanasati samadhi. Articulate mental recitation. I know I am inhaling. I know I am exhaling. The focus is on the mindfulness with words. The effect of this step is to cut off the mental habit of silent internal monologue from the mind base, mind consciousness, and intelligence. The Buddha's mind began to be tranquil, and joy arose. The key in this step is that the silent recitation must be linked with mindful awareness. The Buddha remained in this stage of meditation for 1 week. We need to remember that a week at that time was not necessarily the same as a week of 7 days as we know it today. The Buddha called this stage of meditation, meditation with thought and examination. Vitakar, Pali, means silent internal monologue. Vikara, Pali, means silent internal dialogue. Here, when applying silent recitation with a single content and linked with mindful awareness, distracting thoughts, vikara, from memory areas do not arise, causing the mental habit of internal dialogue to gradually subside, and the mind begins to become pure. Later, the Buddha described this stage as follows. I have detached myself from sensual desires and unwholesome states, and I have attained and abided in the first jhana, a state of joy and happiness born of detachment, accompanied by thought and examination. Joy and happiness arose in me, but they did not dominate my mind. Majjhima Nikaya, Mahasakaka Sutta, number 36. Scientific explanation. Silence stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system to secrete the biochemical acetylcholine, which lightens the body, relief, and dopamine, which makes the mind happy and joyful, joy and happiness. The essence of this stage of meditation is that when one breathes, one still mentally recites and maintains mindful awareness. Inhaling, aware of inhaling. Exhaling, aware of exhaling. This mindful awareness with words is the initial practice led by awakened intelligence, so it is called mindfulness. Second stage of meditation. Second jhana, meditation without thought and examination. With the experience of the first stage of meditation, the Buddha felt joy permeating his whole body and inner tranquility. He realized that this result was largely due to detachment from sensual desires and unwholesome states. He moved to the second stage by ceasing the silent internal monologue and only maintaining mindful awareness, aware of inhaling, aware of exhaling. The breath continues naturally. He only maintains clear mindful awareness of the inhalation and exhalation. He does not use mind consciousness or intelligence to observe, follow, or control the breath. He attained the second stage of meditation, which in the scriptures is called meditation without thought and examination. The Buddha abided in this stage of meditation for 1 week. In this stage, all awareness of the breath, whether coarse, fine, long, short, shallow, or deep. The practitioner is clearly aware, but aware without silent internal monologue about the awareness, only silent recognition. This method is also called empty attention or empty observation, in which there is no subject of knowing, only the recognition of inhaling and exhaling. In this way, his mind became clear, tranquil, and aware of the body's sensations. Joy permeated his whole body. The Buddha described eliminating thought and examination, attaining and abiding in the second jhana, a state of joy and happiness born of concentration, without thought and examination, inner tranquility and one-pointedness. Joy and happiness arose in me, but they did not dominate my mind. Majjhima Nikaya, Mahasakaka Sutta, third stage of meditation, third jhana. Meditation detached from joy, abiding in equanimity, or right mindfulness and clear awareness. In the third week, the Buddha recognized the arising of joy but did not indulge in it, abiding in inner tranquility and equanimity. This stage of meditation is called detached from joy, abiding in equanimity, or right mindfulness and clear awareness, Sati Sampajana, meaning clearly and fully aware of the entire surrounding environment and inner mind, but without attachment. In this stage, his mind had become a firm power of awareness. Although joy permeated his whole body, his mind was not dominated by it. He felt inner tranquility permeating his entire body. At this time, mental formations, sensation and perception, were completely still, and no conceptual thoughts arose. Sensation and perception did not disturb him. The Buddha also abided in the third stage of meditation for 1 week. The Buddha described, detached from joy, abiding in equanimity, right mindfulness and clear awareness, feeling tranquility in the body, attaining and abiding in the third jhana. Tranquility arose in me, but it did not dominate my mind. Fourth stage of meditation, fourth jhana, imperturbable meditation. In this stage, the state of silent awareness that the Buddha had attained in the third jhana gradually became non-verbal recognition. His mind entered an imperturbable state. Even the subtle attachment to tranquility, equanimity, faded away. His inner mind was in deep tranquility. Consciousness was undisturbed. The power of non-verbal recognition became increasingly clear. He immersed himself deeply in objectless concentration. The breath entered a state of spontaneous cessation called quiescence. The Buddha described letting go of joy and suffering, eliminating the previous happiness and sadness, attaining and abiding in the fourth jhana, a state of neither suffering nor happiness, with pure equanimity and mindfulness. This stage of meditation is called imperturbable meditation, or threefold imperturbability, meaning non-perturbation of verbal formation, mental formation, and physical formation. Non-perturbation of verbal formation, ceasing thought and examination, meaning ceasing internal monologue, achieved in the second stage of meditation. Non-perturbation of mental formation. Mental formation is caused by sensation, leading to perception. When sensation and perception are still, the mind is completely unattached, then mental formation is non-perturbing. This is the result of the third stage of meditation. Non-perturbation of physical formation. In the fourth stage of meditation, the breath spontaneously ceases periodically, quiescence, so it is called non-perturbation of physical formation. The Buddha abided in this stage of meditation for 1 week. First stage, attainment of 3 insights. Attainment, abhisamaya, complete enlightenment. On the final day of the 4th week, in the deeply tranquil, imperturbable state of the 4th jhana, 3 wisdoms or 3 insights sequentially became clear in the Buddha's mind like reflections of all things on a clean, dust-free mirror. The light of enlightenment shone in his pure mind. The Buddha said, with a mind concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, free from defilements, pliant, malleable, steady, and attained to imperturbability, I directed my mind to the knowledge of recollecting past lives. This state of mind is called the mind of suchness or mind tathata, a mind entirely tranquil, serene, unattached, only with clear awareness. The first insight is the knowledge of past lives, the clear understanding of countless past lives of himself, from general outlines to details and the conditions leading to the present life. The Buddha attained the knowledge of past lives in the first watch of the night. The second insight is the divine eye. The Buddha saw the relationship of cause and effect, the karma of sentient beings. Sentient beings die here and are reborn elsewhere in the 6 realms. They experience happiness or suffering, wealth or poverty, long life or short life, beauty or deformity. In this life, due to good or bad karma created in previous lives. Thus, the Buddha attained the divine eye in the second watch of the night. The third insight is the extinction of mental defilements. In the third watch of the night, the Buddha realized the answer to his quest for enlightenment. The question was, why do people have to be born to experience birth, aging, sickness, and death? The answer, the root cause, is mental defilements. So what are mental defilements? Mental defilements are the passions, addictions, pleasures, and desires that one cannot give up, mostly bad habits including greed, hatred, and delusion. These are accumulated from many past lives and cling to us until this life. Mental defilements have been, are, and will continue to influence our actions, thoughts, and words. Mental defilements pollute our minds. Mental defilements are the root cause of suffering and the cycle of birth and death. Next, the Buddha realized the Four Noble Truths that everyone must face. These are the truths about suffering, the cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering, collectively known as the Four Noble Truths. The truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path. The Buddha said, "I truly knew this is suffering, mental defilements. This is the cause of suffering, mental defilements. This is the cessation of suffering, mental defilements. This is the path leading to the cessation of suffering, mental defilements." By attaining the extinction of mental defilements, the Buddha completely liberated himself, free from mental defilements, and no longer subject to rebirth in any realm. He said, "Through such knowledge, my mind was liberated from the defilements of sensual desire, from the defilements of becoming, from the defilements of ignorance. I realized I am liberated. I knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more returning to any state of being." This enlightenment is called complete enlightenment, in Pali Abhisamaya. At this time, the Buddha attained the state of an arahant, ending the cycle of rebirth and mental defilements. Second stage, realization of the nature of Dharma and the Dharma realm attainment. Anuttara Sammasambodhi, supreme perfect enlightenment. After attaining the three insights, the Buddha remained under the Pipala tree for 7 more weeks to contemplate the Dharma he had realized. He viewed the world of phenomena with the mind of suchness and saw the nature of the world of phenomena, realizing the nature of Dharma and the nature of the Dharma realm, attaining supreme perfect enlightenment. In Pali, this is Anuttara Sammasambodhi, becoming the Buddha. In the 7th week, still in the state of the mind of suchness, the Buddha observed the external world of phenomena with the eyes of enlightenment. The first thing he noticed was that the external appearance of the world of phenomena was all unchanging, tranquil, eternal, and unaltered. From the mind of suchness, looking at the world of phenomena, he recognized the state of suchness of all things, hence called tathata. Tathata's true suchness is thus. The external appearance of the world of phenomena is thus. Next, he looked deeply into each object, the world of phenomena, and saw that no object was like any other. This means each object is different from another. For example, regarding humans, although all are humans with eyes, ears, noses, standing on 2 legs, speaking human language, no one is exactly like another. Similarly, no cat is exactly like another cat, no tree is exactly like another tree, or no rose is exactly like another rose. This phenomenon is called idapakayata. Idapakayata translates as the conditional nature, meaning specific conditions. Each phenomenon present in this world is formed by many conditions coming together, so it is different. Because it is formed by many conditions coming together, it is impermanent. And because it is impermanent, it is not substantial, not self-existent, so it is non-self. Thus, the 2 realizations of the Buddha were completely opposite. The world of phenomena has 2 different aspects. 1. Tathata, eternal, unchanging, undivided, classified as the nature of the Dharma realm, which is non-conditioned Dharma. 2. Idapakayata, impermanent, changing, different at every moment, classified as the nature of Dharma, which is conditioned Dharma. One view of human existence. The Buddha then observed the process of human reincarnation through the 12 links of dependent origination, also known as the 12 links. Ignorance gives rise to volitional formations. Volitional formations give rise to consciousness. Consciousness gives rise to name and form. Name and form gives rise to the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases give rise to contact. Contact gives rise to feeling. Feeling gives rise to craving. Craving gives rise to clinging. Clinging gives rise to becoming. Becoming gives rise to birth. Birth gives rise to aging and death. Aging and death give rise to ignorance. Ignorance and volitional formations are from the past life. From consciousness to becoming are from the present life. Birth, aging, and death are from the future life. These 12 links are an endless chain of cause and effect, extending indefinitely. This chain forms the wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Each stage undergoes change to transition to the next stage. Humans undergo the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, death. The wheel of samsara formed by the 12 links of dependent origination follows the principle of dependent origination, meaning cause and effect. For example, ignorance is the cause giving rise to volitional formations. Volitional formations are the cause giving rise to consciousness. Consciousness is the cause giving rise to name and form, and so on. This is observing in a forward direction. Observing in reverse, ignorance ceases, then volitional formations cease. Volitional formations cease, then consciousness ceases. Consciousness ceases, then name and form ceases, and so on. If one link ceases, the cycle of birth and death ends. From this, the Buddha established the law of cause and effect. Observing in the forward direction, this exists because that exists. This arises because that arises. Observing in reverse, this does not exist because that does not exist. This ceases because that ceases. The law or principle of cause and effect regarding the formation of human existence does not change. It governs humans and the world of phenomena, hence called truth. In Buddhism there are two terms, cause, hetu, and condition, bakaya. Sometimes it is cause, sometimes it is condition. Cause becomes effect, effect becomes cause. For example, a seed is a cause, a tree is an effect, but the tree is also a cause to produce fruit, which is an effect. The fruit contains seeds. The seed in this fruit, now in effect produced from the cause, which is the tree. The conditions here are soil, water, fertilizer, sunlight. 2. View of the universe. The essence of the universe is always changing, sometimes existing, sometimes not, called the law of change or the nature of emptiness of the world of phenomena. From this, the Buddha explained that all phenomena in the world are constantly changing, hence they are impermanent. If one does not accept impermanence, there is conflict, and where there is conflict, there is suffering. The essence of humans in the world of phenomena is non-self because the world of phenomena and humans are not substantial, not fixed, do not have a solid core to stand independently. These three characteristics are called the three marks of existence. The Buddha realized that humans or the universe are constantly changing every moment, only temporarily aggregated, not substantial, hence their essence is empty, empty. Saying empty does not mean denying the existence of the world of phenomena, because the senses perceive their existence, but this existence changes into something else, so it is only illusory, temporarily existing. Hence, the Buddha also realized the illusory nature of the world of phenomena. In other words, humans in the world of phenomena exist in one moment. In the next moment they change, so this existence is only like magic. In summary, the essence of the universe is always changing, sometimes existing, sometimes not, due to the law of change, called the nature of emptiness. The universe changes according to the cycle: birth, duration, decay, destruction, becoming something else. The Buddha, in the state of the mind of suchness, realized that the external appearance of all phenomena in the world is only thus, just thus. The state of thusness is entirely calm, unmoving. Observing from afar, he realized that all are thus. This is the true suchness of the world of phenomena. Because all are thus, true suchness is equal. Therefore, the world of phenomena has the nature of equality. All people, objects, and scenes are thus equal. Only in the mind of suchness can one realize this equality. In summary, in the seventh week, the Buddha realized the law of dependent origination and the nature of dependent origination, recognized that humans and all things exist due to sufficient causes and conditions, and cease when the conditions are not sufficient, not due to any deity or God's intervention. Humans undergo the cycle of birth and death in the 6 realms of heaven: human, asura, animal, hungry ghost, or hell due to their own creation. Creating karma, one must be reborn to repay karma, not by divine arrangement, not blaming fate. Therefore, humans are the masters of their own karma. With the wisdom of Prajna, the Buddha realized the origin of humans. Buddhism has liberated humans from the slavery of gods, from blind faith. The life of humans or the universe, observed objectively, is like a river, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, sometimes clear, sometimes muddy. The river of the universe has no beginning and no end, never ceases. Ending one life is the beginning of another life in a different form, sometimes as a human, sometimes as an animal. Like a tree falling down, being sawed into planks, the planks are made into tables, chairs. This is the continuous life of humans, animals, or phenomena. Although they undergo the cycle of birth, duration, decay, destruction, they become something else, just changing forms. In conclusion, in the 7th week after realizing the nature of suchness and the law of dependent origination through the state of the mind of suchness, realizing the nature of the Dharma realm, essence of the world of phenomena, and the nature of Dharma, essence of the world of phenomena, recognizing the characteristics of the universe and humans, the Buddha became the fully enlightened one, attaining supreme perfect enlightenment, Anuttara Samma Sambodhi, being honored as the Buddha, the only historical Buddha in Buddhism, meaning the real Buddha. The other Buddhas are mythical Buddhas, not recorded in history or introduced by Shakyamuni Buddha. Later, when teaching the Dharma, the Buddha denied the role of gods in human life, meaning there is no creator or God. Humans exist due to sufficient causes and conditions. When not sufficient, they cease and become something else. There is nothing eternal and unchanging in humans called self or eternal soul. Humans are non-self, anatta, because they change over time. The life of humans is the law of cause and effect, nothing more. Cause and effect are related, but effect is not cause. Cause is not effect. So this life and the next are not the same but not different. There is a condition between cause and effect.